A very good morning. My name is Victoria Sibia and welcome to today's breakfast meeting. I'm pretty excited because I have some guests in studios. One of the major things we talk about, and somebody said this once and said, education is the most powerful weapon we could use to change the world. And yes, of course, it could possibly even change your family, your community. It makes a huge difference. Now imagine not just studying from just anywhere, imagine studying at Gannon University. With me in studio right now, we have Dr. George T. Sipos, I learned to pronounce that correctly, who is the Executive Director of Global Enrollment and Engagement at Gannon University. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Great to be here.
On the other side, I have here Hairah Kibuuka, who's not a, who's pretty much a regular. We know your face, and you might as well introduce us. Since but she's the Regional Manager at Africa, Gannon University. I'm quite excited to have this conversation, especially because I also want to understand. Tell us more about Gannon University.
Sure.
Where is it? Where does it come from? And how was it founded in the first place?
Where does it come from? Yes. So Gannon University was founded about 100 years ago, 1925. It is located in Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie is the 5th largest city of the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is, the state right by New York and New Jersey out there. But when you think about New York, don't think it's just like in the movies that you get from Erie to New York right away. I mean, it's a good 10, 11-hour drive. So we're all the way in the northwestern part of Pennsylvania by Lake Erie, one of the 5 Great Lakes between the United States and Canada. We're in a nice location, beautiful area. We've been founded by Bishop Gannon of Erie, and we are a Catholic university that's been there for quite a while. And
sounds absolutely amazing. Let me come to you, Hairah. If you could perhaps share with me, what is it that you actually do as also just the regional manager here in Africa? What is your involvement?
Well, thanks, Victoria. And once again, I'm happy to be here. This kind of feels like home. I'm Hairah Kibuuka, and I work as the regional manager for Gannon University for Africa. And Africa, I mean East, West, Central, and Southern Africa. So I'm in charge of recruiting students, supporting students who apply to Gannon University as their first point of contact. So before the applications are submitted to the university, I have to screen them and ensure that everything is fine before they are passed over to the admissions office in Erie.
And now that we've established where Gannon University is, and of course it being an educational institution, my question though is, why should Africans be interested? Just as you're saying, you're the first point of contact. Why should citizens of Uganda or East Africa altogether, Southern Africa, just as you said, why should they be particularly interested in going to Gannon University?
Well, George put it outright actually. Erie, first of all, there's lots of benefits that students get when they go to study abroad. And when you look at Gannon University, there's so many benefits, and George will elaborate more on these ones. Gannon University is nationally ranked. We like to say that not so many universities in the United States have that national ranking. There's over 4,800, but out of the 4,800, about 400, right? Yeah, about 412 are nationally ranked, and Gannon University is the 200th.
Please elaborate more on that.
No, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to benefits, I keep thinking about this every time I go into a new market. I'm thinking, okay, what are the universities in this country? So I did the research before arriving to Uganda, and there are great universities. I did even read a controversial piece that said that out of the 40 universities of Uganda, maybe only 20 can qualify as universities. I didn't go into detail there, but of course, I mean, most of the people who are educated in Uganda would be like, I went to Makerere, I went to Kampala International. There are schools that certainly offer great education. The question is, when it comes to global education in general, not just with Gannon or the United States, is where do you see yourself in the future? What is it that you want to achieve? And if you are seeing yourself as this growing pool of global human talent, right, of global human resources who are able to move wherever internationally and contribute to companies wherever they are called to do so, then you have to make sure that if you choose a national university, that university will give you the credentials that you need, on one hand. We know for a fact that not, you know, the clear destinations, United States, United Kingdom, Australia, are the places where you can study and get a global education. Nevertheless, when you come out of this English-speaking environment, I guess the opportunities sort of decrease. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think your global education becomes really important. When you study in the United States, I mean, not because I'm working at an American university, but we're still, for the time being, the top higher education system in the world. Mm-hmm. So you get immediately that sort of value added to whatever you put in.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the programs then offered, because just as you've said, there are multiple universities literally everywhere. What sort of programs does Gannon University basically offer?
So, in order to be a national university in the United States, you have to offer all levels of the higher education system. So we have associate's degree, undergrad degrees, which are bachelor's degrees, 4-year bachelor's degree in the United States, and master's degrees as well as doctoral degrees. We offer around 70 undergrad degrees, bachelor's degrees in 4 major fields of study: computer science, engineering, business, and healthcare. Mm-hmm. Our most popular programs, of course, are in the engineering, business, healthcare areas, but and we are highly ranked when it comes to engineering, computer science. But we've been known as a university to develop programs that are in sync with the job market. That's what I'm talking, just I was saying earlier, right? So we look at the job market. Where is the job market going? What are the degrees that will then be in demand in the job market, either in the United States or globally? So then we develop this, and then they are aligned not only for companies that need them, but also for the STEM factor. Mm-hmm. So we add the science, technology, engineering, mathematics piece to it, because, you know, when it comes to both international and domestic American students, that becomes key to the employment. Even if you do a communications degree, how do you add to that communications degree a piece that is anchored in sciences? Mm-hmm. I think that becomes key in the way the employer looks at you. So it's no wonder that 95, 96% of our graduating classes are always employed. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, though, to know, what does Gannon University actually offer African students? Because something that I've experienced wildly is that around here in Uganda, a lot of people are quite interested in studying abroad. This is something that people are looking for an opportunity to actually even doing that. And you being the regional manager, bringing it closer to them, what are some of those things that you offer to African students in particular, particularly those from Uganda, to help them also adjust into a new country, a new university, new culture?
I like to tell students that studying in the USA is actually quite expensive and compared to other destinations. And the reason I was actually appointed a regional manager is to pass on these benefits for students to study at Gannon University. And the most important one is the regional award that Gannon offers to students. And this regional award significantly reduces the estimated living costs to study at Gannon University, or in this case U.S.A., to a greater level. We are talking about 50% reduction in both tuition and living expenses. So for me, that's a benefit I feel students can take advantage of and attain this quality education in the USA. And other than that, he spoke about the internationally recognized degrees, the ease of admission. There's a whole department that is dedicated to international students at Gannon University, and we call it the Office of Global Outreach, that is there to support students from the time they start their application to the time they enroll at the university. So we bring all those benefits so students can know that you don't have to have a lot of money to study in the US, because opportunities like these are always available.
Now, if you could share perhaps some success stories of some African students perhaps that you know that have had this experience, or what are some of those highlights, especially being regional manager, you must know some of those highlights of students that have gone up and probably have been successful in settling in as well.
Yes, specifically at Gannon University, and I have quite a number of testimonials which I might not be able to share now, but we do have some Ugandan students who've come from both the international schools and the national schools, and the reviews they give about the university in general are excellent. They talk about accommodation, which can be quite difficult to find in the United States. We all know it's a very huge country. Finding accommodation is not easy. So they'll talk about accommodation. They'll talk about the support they get from the international office. They'll talk about them getting support in as far as opening up bank accounts are concerned, helping them, if they've graduated in this case, apply for their OPT, which Gannon actually extends. So when a student graduates eventually, Gannon will ensure that the student, if they qualify to get the OPT in this case is George.
Right.
You might want to help me
Right,
here.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely. So this is one of the benefits that the United States have extended for international students on a student visa. The student visa in the United States is a non-immigrant visa. Nevertheless, when you graduate, especially if you graduate with a degree that is designated as STEM, you have up to 3 years where you can actually work in the United States on that student visa, on an extension of that student visa. You have to find a job, evidently, and the university doesn't necessarily hire you. You will have to apply for a job. So you go through that process as well in a highly competitive job market, which I think is a great experience for any international student. You know, you finished your bachelor's degree and you go into the job market right there. And then if you get that job on your student visa, with our support, you are allowed to work anywhere in the United States for the next 3 years. Whatever happens in those 3 years with you, your employer, whatever, is already out of our purview. But during that time, you are legally allowed to. And even if you don't get a STEM degree, you still have 18 months, so a year and a half, to get a job and work in the United States on your student visa, right? So this is a tremendous advantage when it comes to value. In the United States, we talk about best value university. What does that mean? It means that the money you put in, you know, you actually get it back and get more for it in a short period of time. Gannon is one of the best value universities in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has a lot of universities, a big state, right? We are one of the best value universities in Pennsylvania because of that. And especially for international students with the regional awards that my colleague Hairah talked about, I think it's really important. Actually, on the tuition, it's more like a third, 2/3 scholarship and 1/3 tuition for them. On the dorm, it's like half of it, right? So with all of that put together, when it comes down to it, you get a package for like 1 full year at around $23,000, $24,000. That is not easy to match in the United States for like a national university like we are, right?
Dr. George, help me emphasize just a little more on, like you said, they can get a job. What about those people who are saying, I'm already studying in a different university? Can I transfer into Gannon University? And somebody who might even ask, can I bring my family with me? Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We get all this kind of inquiries, Victoria, that's true. When it comes to transfer, absolutely, they can transfer. Of course, they have to meet academic requirements. So it does take an application. You have to apply. You talk to Hairah, she can explain you all the details of that application. There are academic requirements, grade requirements, of course. What happens typically in a transfer is that the student will first have to be accepted to the university. Then we evaluate the courses that they took, and we are able to let them know how many credits they can actually transfer towards our degree. So in the end, they don't have to do a 4-year degree from the beginning, from zero. They can transfer. They may be able to transfer some of these credits towards the degree. When it comes to the family, that's a little bit of a different story. I mean, the student typically comes with what we call an F1 visa.
Yes.
That is an international student visa in the United States. Dependents, be it children or spouses or others, they have to come on a so-called F2 visa. They also have to prove that they have the finances to support these dependents. So when they send us a bank statement where they show us how much money they have available to study in the United States, that amount for the dependents has to be included. So that's the key to that application. They are allowed to, of course, but they have to prove that they can support those family members.
Absolutely. Hairah, you spoke about just a subsidy of close to about 50%, which is quite a huge number. For somebody who's asking, how about a scholarship? Is there an opportunity for a full ride? Is there some way that this person can raise the funds and be able to actually further their education?
So for starters, we don't offer fully funded scholarships. And what we give is an award. We don't want to call it a scholarship because every African student who applies to Gannon University qualifies for that regional award as long as you meet the admission requirements. So we'll calculate and ensure that if you're admitted, you automatically get it. However, there are other scholarships that are available, the athletics scholarship. But in this case, the students who are good at athletics, it could be basketball, rugby, soccer, swimming, they have to engage with the coaches directly. So in this case, I always tell them to reach out to me and I'll pass over the contacts. They have to show what they're good at and what they've done in the past for them to qualify for such scholarships. So if they do eventually get them, they can top that up with the regional award that we give, which can significantly reduce the tuition and living expenses altogether. It could even come to a full amount, depending on the kind of athletic scholarship that has been given to them.
Somebody might be thinking about cultural differences. I mean, when you're talking about Africa and then you're talking about the United States and such a different world altogether. Is there something that the university does to support students from that point of view of assimilating into the culture, understanding how people are living so that they can also kind of have a smooth ride as they study and focus more on those particular studies?
Sure, and it all starts with the orientation. So when all universities here in Makerere, we call them bazaars, where it's a full week where students get to interact with students who are coming from Kenya and all. It's the same thing that happens at Gannon University. We have a long week orientation where students will interact from those coming from India, Nepal, Malaysia, South Africa, Nigeria, you name it. So in that week, that's where students will be oriented or inducted into the American system. And we encourage students to always be present for that orientation week. In the same breath, they will be told how to open bank accounts, like I mentioned initially, introduced to the American system, culture. People will showcase all kinds of cultures. The Indians will present their food, Ugandans, Kenyans, and the like. So it becomes quite easy for students to blend into the American system. Oh, and again, part of the other services is that when they arrive on Erie or in Erie at the start of the academic semester, they are picked up from the airport. So it kind of becomes easy for them to feel at home already because someone is going to be there to receive them, not just moving up and about, not knowing where exactly to go.
And I think Victoria, that there are basically two stages in their adaptation to life in the United States. The first one is the one that Hairah described, and it's part of the division where I'm part of, like global enrollment and engagement, right? We have an Office of Global Support for students, we have an Office of Global Admissions and Outreach, we have a global Office of English as a second language, right? These are part of this division that helps students arrive to Gannon, integrate, be accepted, arrive, be integrated into campus. Now, the next stage is that they're already Gannon students. So as they're Gannon students, part of this orientation, part of what we do in those first weeks of classes is to help them understand the campus culture, is to help them understand what it means to go to the Dean of Students office. What does it mean to safely call the campus police? You know, what does it mean to go and talk to the career counselor or to your advisor and all that? All these pieces come, or to the health clinic. All these pieces come together, and after that point, basically, they only come to us when they need a signature to go home or when they need their OPT, because for the rest of the time, they are Gannon students. They are part of our community, right? And Gannon has over 26% of our population. We are like a 5,000 student university. 1,300 of them are international from 75 countries. I mean, we have a long tradition of bringing, we are one of the top 10 universities in the United States by the percentage of international population on campus. So that's significant. We have all these pieces already put together. We've been doing this for a long time.
Yes. So 100 years to be exact.
Well, 100 years for the domestic, but also this structure of like going and picking students from international and promoting them has been happening for over 2 decades at Gannon. So
that was my next question about what exactly inspired to be a lot more inclusive into the global world for Gannon University.
This is part of our philosophy as a school, right? There's, on one hand, we have a direction towards the student who we want to believe in their own possibilities and achieve their best, as well as us as a school transforming their lives. Because we are animated on one hand by the Catholic ethical tradition and educational tradition, on the other hand by the liberal arts tradition, we want to create encompassing campuses. We want everybody's welcome, everybody's, of course, practicing their own religion, their spiritual faith, their own traditions. We encourage that, like Hairah was saying, in International Light and all that. We want to see everybody there. The cafeteria features dishes from countries where the students come from. Sometimes they give the recipes to the chef, and then the chef attempts to cook it with the help of the students and offer it for the entire community. So there is an integration, because on one hand, we want American students to be exposed to all these wonderful cultures that we have on campus. On the other hand, of course, international students get accustomed to living first in a university, American university campus, which is then a transition for them to understand other sides of American life. So all this is sort of like there's syncretism and there's harmonious integration in what we do at Gannon, and we've been doing it for a long time, like I said.
I'm very interested in knowing, Hairah, I must assume that you've been to the campus itself, but I want to understand, just for those who are watching, excite me a little bit. What is campus life like for a student? I've entered into the Big Apple for a second, and what is campus life like? What does the campus look like? Is it much like what people see in the movies, or is it different?
Yeah, well, you see, I always tell students when I go to any market, I say, look, America is not like Hollywood. But when it comes to campuses, actually it is.
Okay.
So campuses are like that. You know, it is a space that we have a center of the campus. We're an urban campus, so we're not outside of the city campus. We're like downtown Erie. We're right by the main square. I mean, I look at the main square from my window, from my office window. We're like 4 blocks from Lake Erie on the shores right there. So it is a campus that, though, has, even if it's in an urban area, it has a very delineated sort of structure, a gate, and so on and so forth. And students basically commingle there. The dorms are right there. There are 16 dorms. There are 5 cafeterias right there on campus. That's the essence of liberal studies, right? You live, work, study in the same place. You come together as a community, right? So, yeah, we have a stadium, we have a gym, we have a pool, we have everything right there for students to focus on their studies. They don't have to worry about where do I cook my meal or what do I do. You know, the dorms students who come in as undergrads, you know, they have to live in the dorm for 2 years at least until they get used to the campus, until they know what to do, and so on. So it's all integrated as a life study experience kind of thing.
Beautiful. Let's talk about how can I apply. Somebody's asking, you know, I'd like to apply already. What's the process like? Take me through from beginning to end.
It's a very simple process. Of course, with my support, there's 2 platforms where we can apply. One that we encourage is through our website, and that's www.gannon.edu. So the link to apply is iapply.gannon.edu. It's a straightforward application form where a student will fill in their details, their home address, name, passport number, email address, so that we can get in touch with them directly. And in the same application, they have to upload all their documents. That's all the full academic documents. If they've graduated, if they've not graduated. For high school, it could be predicted grades. For the graduate students, it could be their transcripts and graduate certificates. Then they also have to upload, where necessary, personal statements, English language proficiency tests, if in this case it's required. Most importantly, financial statements. So with the American system, the student has to show that they're capable of meeting their tuition and living expenses. And how do you show that? In form of a bank statement. So if our discount brings the tuition down to around $24,000, then the student has to provide a statement that has that amount. They will upload it together with the affidavit of support from their sponsor. It could be a parent, it could be an auntie, it could be yourself if you're a graduate student. So once you've uploaded all those, it would take us about 5 to 7 working days to process the admission, and the student will get acceptance and then apply for their visa. With my support, I'll walk them through the journey. That's now platform 1. The other, for those who are very familiar with the Common App, Common App is where a student can submit an application to quite a number of universities in the US, so we as Gannon are also on Common App. So the student can also choose to submit their application through the Common application. And again, depending on the documents uploaded, we'll still process within 5 to 7 working days. There's no application fee.
That was my next question, yes.
There's no application fee, so and they can only submit one application at a time.
So it takes just about a week to apply, and then how about the response back from the university?
The response back from the university is the one that I would mean would take 5 to 7 working days. So your application, it could take you an hour, 30 minutes, depending on how ready you are. But once you have submitted everything that we need from you, then on our side, it's 5 to 7 working days. Very short processing timelines, quite efficient, and yeah, you're in.
Tell me a little bit about Shaw's Consult and why the choice to work also with Gannon University, and how have you partnered with Gannon University?
Well, Shaw's Borderless Study Consults is an agency that works with different universities, and in this case, we are also a registered partner or an approved partner for Gannon University, and I also happen to be the managing director for Shaw's Borderless Study Consults. So while Shaw's recruits for Gannon, Hairah also works with Gannon as the regional manager for Africa.
No, it sounds absolutely amazing. It sounds like an opportunity for absolutely anyone and everyone, which brings me to that question. Can anyone and everyone apply to enter into Gannon University?
Absolutely. There is no limitation in terms of age, experience, and so on. Students are not, I mean, United States federal law prohibits any sort of discrimination. There will be no, you know, you're too old to apply to Gannon. There's no such thing. So anybody can apply, whether you are a high school graduate who wants to pursue a bachelor's degree in the United States, or you've already achieved or have been granted your bachelor's degree in Uganda or anywhere else. You can apply to Gannon for a master's degree. So absolutely, everybody's welcome.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little deeper about studying abroad in the first place. For students who are in Uganda, who have heard multiple stories or, misconceptions, are there any misconceptions or myths that you would like to just quickly burst there for us?
I would love to. I was in schools yesterday, and the first thing when you ask students, like, well, what do you know about studying in the United States? Well, it's expensive. I'm like, okay, well, that's a relative term. First of all, like we said, we have a full package for you that includes tuition, food, dorm, fees, health insurance, and so on. That's $24,000 a year. And that goes below that after the second year, right? So now, if that is a big amount, although I've learned that the tuition for certain private high schools in Kampala is quite on par with that. So I'm like, okay, well, what's expensive? And then we go back to the beginning of our discussion about value. What is the value that you put on that education, and what do you expect to get from it? What is your return on investment, right? When do you cover what you put in? How long does it take? Depending on the job you get, it could be a couple of years, it could be 5-6 years, right? So that's the first myth that I think we need to think very thoroughly about. Is it truly expensive? Or is it expensive because there seems to be a big amount of money? But this is not about selling jackets and not about selling shoes. This is about the future of your children, or the way they will build their lives, right? You make one choice for that. You don't really get do-overs. Shoes you return, or you don't like them, you buy them. For these, you have to be very careful, right?
True. Very true. How about you? Are there any misconceptions that you found around Africa altogether, whether that's Southern Africa, East Africa? Are there any misconceptions that you found the students thinking about, myth busters there that you would like to share on?
Culture adaptation is usually one of those, and this cuts across all countries. Students always fear what to find, what to expect, will I fit in? But I always tell people, or my students in this case, that the most safest environment they can ever get into is a university, because you're going to be surrounded by international students from all over the world. You're not the only Ugandan going to be at Gannon University. You're not the only Nigerian or South African. So students have to be aware that when they get into a student community, adaptation is going to be very easy, and they have to be open, because it's through these exposures that one can make it in life. I could find you and you are South African and I'm from Uganda. Who knows what my next opening in future is going to be, maybe through your connection. So they should not fear to adapt to different cultures. If anything, this is the only way. So aside from the tuition fees or the United States of America being expensive, they always question how easy it would be for them to adapt to the different cultures. But it's not as difficult, because you're international students all in one place. So you learn a few things from one culture to the other.
Absolutely beautifully said. Dr. George, any final words, any final remarks there?
Well, you know, sometimes I make jokes about my own white beard and say, you know, I've been in this field for a long time. Look, my beard is white. Look, kids out there, education is essential. Don't squander that moment in your life when you make a choice. Don't be afraid to make big choices, and don't be afraid to choose well. Whether it's Gannon University or any other university in the world, be part of that group of like 10 million students that we're expecting to be mobile by 2030. So we'll be happy to see you in Erie, Pennsylvania.
How about you? Any final remarks there, Hairah?
Well, I'm here to support all of them. That's my job. I'm being the regional manager. I want to make the process as seamless as possible and as transparent as much transparent as possible. So let them feel free to reach out. I do have an office at Jokasa House on Nakasero Road. I move quite a bit in the different regions, but I'm always here to support those students. So feel free, if you want to know more about Gannon University, or in this case studying in the USA, I'm always here to help.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it from the best. You absolutely heard it from the people who know what exactly to do in order for you to get that education that you have been dreaming about, or perhaps you've been dreaming about going to the USA to study. This is absolutely your opportunity to do that. It's Gannon University. Dr. George, thank you so much for coming through to the breakfast meeting.
Thank you for having us.
us.
Awesome, wonderful. It's been the breakfast meeting. I'm Victoria Sabia, and see you soon.